don't forget to save the worms. Uh-oh, so many worms here. Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. Today we're out in the garden again, and I need to get some things done, some chores, garden chores that I've been avoiding because of the rain, but it's a beautiful day, so I have no excuse not to get them done. The first thing we're going to be doing today is pruning some of our roses. Now, when we moved in, we removed all of the roses that were here because we had no idea what they were, and they were hybrid tea roses, not ones that we love. So we actually gave a lot of them to our friends. So we have a bunch of potted ones that are still under nursery cans that we have not planted yet, but we're going to in the next couple of weeks. So I have to clean those up. Those did leaf out, but I'm still going to prune them just because I think they'll benefit from a good pruning before the season really kicks off. And then I also have some peonies to clean up. I want to clean up around just like the borders around the fence and the house. We have stuff everywhere right now, and you'll see in a minute. Just because of the construction, we literally shift things around back and forth, and it's just the reality of our life right now. We're really like 6 months behind schedule on what we thought, like where we'd be right now. Like, I think the schedule was we're supposed to have the siding done like at this time, and we're still working on the inside. So a lot to do. I have some piles of things, and I'll show you here in a sec, of things we might need to load up to take to the dump, because I started to clean out the shed, which is such a good feeling. And then Sergey is going to flip my garden beds, my cut flower garden beds, because every year this is something that we do. We take out the irrigation, we check to make sure that everything is still flowing right, and then we're going to amend and just kind of recharge the soil with some compost and some more soil, because every time, I don't know if this happens with you, every time I dig up my flowers or like my dahlia tubers, I lift so much of the soil. It's incredible. I make such a mess. But we do need to get the beds ready because we have somebody coming in probably in the next week to install the edging, finally, the edging around the cut flowers, so we can put in our gravel pathways, which is going to be really fun. So before we really get started, you can see there's just things all around in the side garden here. Our window, our bathroom window. This is such a beautiful space. It's a 5x5 window that we had installed. There's our tub, but there's still a mess in there too. So don't mind that. We're not using that bathroom quite yet, but that is our primary bathroom now. But you can tell, like, the siding, they haven't covered anything because we're going to be doing batten board. So this is kind of what the area back here looks like. And if I turn around, what a mess, I know. So these are just some of the things that I pulled out of the shed yesterday. These are all going away. And if I turn around here, this is what things are starting to look like. The grass looks beautiful, so that's good, but everything else kind of needs a little bit of help. And here are the roses. So you can tell that they leafed out, but you know what? I really do need to prune them because they don't look that great. So we're going to clean the nursery cans that they're in, and then we're going to get them in the ground hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Typically I would do this about a month earlier, but they really did leaf out like maybe a week ago, which is crazy just because it started to warm up like overnight, but that's okay. And then we have peonies over here that we also need to clean up, but these are coming in really pretty, and we will be planting these as well in the next couple of weeks, or maybe the next 3 weeks, depending on our schedule. And here's kind of like the view from this angle. The deck, you guys, is such a mess. We have plants, we have our grill, which we've been cooking out of because our kitchen is not done. Our fridge is there. Our new fridge is in the front of the house. Our range, our new dishwasher, it's all on the deck. So it's a mess, but you know what? That's life right now. But hopefully once we get that all done, the siding will get done. We do want to redo the deck. The fence still has to get done. We want to redo the entire fence, and that will really be like the last thing that we do. And here's some roses here too. I think what we'll do is bring these roses out. Maybe I'll just set them on the table and then we will prune them. I'm also going to bring out some plants that are on the deck that just need to come out. I'm going to come in and just rake some of these pine cones that just fall from our neighbor's tree, and they like explode as they fall. It's so annoying, but it is what it is. Okay, before I set the roses up, let me just grab my pruners. You will need bypass pruners for most of this. You might want to use loppers, which could be useful for some of the bigger canes that you might need to cut. All of our canes are pretty small, so I don't think I'm going to need loppers, but if you do have ones, if you have roses that are established, you might want to use loppers, because that will just be a little bit easier when you're cutting some of those bigger canes down. So let me get the roses, we'll set them up on this table, and then we'll walk through pruning, and then we'll move on to the peonies. All right, here is a good rose to start out with. Number one is always clean the leaves that are around your plant, whether it's in a container or a nursery can. Just clean them up, much better. So the number one thing I always do is remove anything that's dead, damaged, or diseased. So for example, this cane down here, it's like brown, it's black, there's no growth on it, or there's just no life to it. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut it back all the way down to the main cane. The second thing is we want to shape our plant. So we don't want anything that's crossing, and we also don't want things that are growing too close together. Again, we really want to just open it up and have it like be a wine glass, just like I've said before when we were pruning our fig trees. So anything that I see that's growing towards the center or crossing one another, I'm going to go ahead and remove. And again, if you have canes that are really skinny and just like flimsy, you can go ahead and just discard that. Again, a good rule of thumb to remember, anything that's the size of a pencil or bigger, keep, and everything else I tend to prune off. But because these haven't been in the ground yet, I don't want to necessarily cut everything like I typically would. So I'm going into the center here. I see this one is just growing right into the center. That's just not a habit I want. So I'm going to prune that off. I'm also going to prune this cane right here, this little cane that's not really doing much for us. Let's see. Yeah, I don't love this one either. I'm going to go ahead and remove that one. And now when you are pruning your roses, you always want to look for the new growth, and you want to cut above a shoot that's on the outside. So if I come in closer, let me make sure you guys can see this. Here we go. So if I come in closer, you see that there's a new growth coming this way, which is going towards the inside or the center of the plant, but we also have a growth point right here, right below it. And that's where I'm going to prune. And I typically prune them at a 45-degree angle, just because you want to prevent water from pooling on the cut. Honestly though, sometimes I'll just make a straight cut. I haven't really noticed too big of a difference, but a lot of rose gardeners will tell you like cut at a 45-degree angle. You want to make sure that that growth point or that eye is on the outside. So when I cut here, it's going to start growing on the outside versus the inside. So I'm going to cut with that 45-degree angle going towards the center. So just like that, and you want to do about 1/4 of an inch above that new growth. I'm going to just go ahead and remove that. I'm going to remove this as well. Let's see here. This one is a little suspicious. I do have a growth point here, which would come out here. This one could potentially come out this way. So I am going to cut right there. Okay, again, just going with the same rule, pruning out any of those crossing. This one's gotten pretty tall. I see a growth point right here. It's very minimal, but I do see a little bit of swelling. So I'm going to take that cane down, and I'll take about 1/3 or a little bit more of the plant down each year, depending on how big they are. Sometimes I might go a little bit more. It just depends. Again, there's a new growth here, but I actually want the growth to come out right here. So I'm going to cut right there. Actually, you know what? I'm going to cut right here. Like that. There's a growth right down here, and it's just going to come out. Spin it around. Don't care for this one. There's a nice growth point here. I'm going to cut that. Same with there. Let's see. I'm going to cut that off. that guy. You kind of have to be ruthless, but your roses will thank you. Cut there. And we'll cut there as well. And I'm gonna just cut this off because they're growing relatively close together. Now this one, there's a growth point like right at the bottom here. So hopefully it will start growing that way. Prune that. I'm gonna just remove this little growth there. And there we go. Now it does look pretty bare, I know. Again, this is better done like early spring, late winter, but they really just leafed out really quickly. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off. And you know, this cane is it's growing really close to this main cane down here. So I am going to get in here somehow and cut that. There we go. Now there's gonna be nice room and it just looks a whole lot better. And now we're just going to follow the same steps for all of the roses. So as you can see, I did take quite a bit off. I left a little bit more on our shrub roses. Those I typically leave a little bit fuller anyway. And I added a little bit of fertilizer in each container. I'll go ahead and link that for you guys. But roses are heavy eaters, so I really do fertilize my roses frequently, especially when the growing season starts. Now, when I plant these, we will use some starter fertilizer to just get those roots really established and going, but I'm gonna water these in, the fertilizer that I put in today. Totally not necessary. This is just, I just wanted to do this just to kind of give them a kick start because I pruned them pretty hard today. Anyways, let's go down to the peonies. So these are the peonies that we're going to be cleaning up today. Again, these are not going to require a lot of work like the roses did. Most of our peonies are herbaceous or Edo peonies. There are tree peonies as well, which is really beautiful. They produce really massive flowers, but I think the true peony that we had, we gave away. The ones that we have here are herbaceous and Edo peonies. The herbaceous ones you cut down every year. This one here this one's called Sunrise and it's an Edo peony. So all we have to do is cut down some of these woody stems down to the new growth. Okay, so I think we're gonna call it a day. It's starting to sprinkle again. It did rain while we were working, so we shut off the cameras, but we got some other stuff done, which is really nice. So we still have to run to the dump. We'll probably do that later today or maybe tomorrow. I'm going to leave this space here for our landscape guys to come and clean up. They're usually here once a week, so I'll have them help me clean up this area a bit more. But if we take a look at the garden now, it just looks so much better. I feel so good when I have things you know when you have just projects in your head and you want to get them done, and for whatever reason you keep putting them off and you keep putting them off, well, it just feels good to come in here and get things done. I removed some of the clutter that was right over here. It was nice to clean up our hosta containers. I don't know, I think I've had them for a couple of years and they just look really beautiful and lush in the summertime. Now the beds look much better. We still have 3 to do, but you know what? It really is such a blessing to have Sergey do this project for me, because it's just one of those things I do not like to do. But you saw the first thing we do is remove any weeds or any flowers that seeded themselves. And then we use the garden claw, which is probably one of my favorite tools. It's a manual tool, but you know what? It's so much, for me, it's easier to use that than a small, even like a small tiller to come in and till the bed. I really love, that's just one of my favorite garden tools, and I think every gardener needs it. I will link it down below. So after he comes in and he fluffs the soil, just look at how nice that is. And then he'll rake everything really neatly, and then we'll just sweep off the edges. We'll probably come in at some point and power or pressure wash the beds, just because they got some, just not mildew but moss growth because of all of the rain. But hopefully with the new gravel paths, it'll eradicate some of that. But I think it looks so great. And again, we will top dress all of these beds with compost and just a little bit more soil in the beds that are pretty low, especially the furthest one up there. That one has probably the least amount of soil. I don't know why, because usually the dahlia beds are the ones that I really pull up a lot of soil, so you can tell like what a huge difference. And we still have some tulips in this bed from the previous year. I think I grew about 1,000 in this bed, and some of them are still coming up. You can see just remnants of the tubers, the dahlia tubers that we dug up. All right, I think that'll be it for today. It's so nice to just get out here and get after some of these projects. I'm sure you guys know too, you kind of get a little stir crazy being inside. And for me, I'm just so excited. Like, we're so close to getting everything done inside, and then we'll shift our focus to the outside again, which is just going to be really nice, especially as the weather warms up. I just love being outside more than anything, and especially after a long day of work, it's just nice to come into your garden and plant things and clean things up. And I'm so excited about the beds and all of the other things that I want to plant in the side garden, in the front yard, around the house, near the fence. All of those things are just, I know it's going to fall into place, and it just makes me really excited. So anyways, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I'll see you next time.